Hello and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is presented by Asher Agency, your all-in-one marketing partner, serving clients across the nation. For further details, check out asheragency.com.
My guest is Melissa Schenkel. Melissa, how you doing?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for doing this. I feel like we've talked about this for a while, and it's great to finally have you here. We're in a new setup today. Podcast Nick, has done some great work to get us into a new space. So thanks for being our guinea pig on this backup space. So when did you and I meet? Because I feel like we've known each other for a long time, but I can't really remember when we first connected.
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was thinking, and I can't really remember either. I feel like I've always known you. We've kind of always...
It's one of those Fort Wayne things where you're in the same sort of orbit as someone, and you always knew them, but you can't pin down where it first happened.
I know it had to have been when I was at Vera Bradley, which would have been more than a decade ago.
Yeah.
I was there for a decade, and I've been outside of Vera Bradley for a decade. So
it's really been that long? It's been more than 10 years. Wow.
It has.
Okay.
But so it's probably been at least 15 years I've known you, Anthony?
Yeah, probably community stuff. Let's call it that.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, because I know you're really involved in the community. We're going to get to that in a bit. But let's talk a little bit about your career path, because you've had some interesting twists and turns. And I want to start at the beginning when you were first thinking about careers, whether that was elementary school or high school or college. What were you thinking about? And did you follow that path or did you go in a different direction?
Yes and no.
Okay.
What was I thinking about? From a young age, probably when I was in second or third grade, I wanted to be a news anchor. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a choreographer probably before that. But then I wanted to be a news anchor, probably from about second grade until I graduated high school. And that's actually why I went to Ball State. Mm-hmm. My undergraduate degree is in telecommunications and broadcast news.
And you actually did an internship at CNN, correct?
I did.
So what was attractive about that field of work as you were growing up and thinking about careers?
You know, what was attractive is probably just the ability to tell stories and the human interest side of things. I loved learning about, have a curiosity about people, and I want to know their why. Yeah. And so that's why I thought going into this would be great. And I actually got to pick him up from the airport when I was in college. I was a telecommunications major. Steve Hartman drove him to an event at Ball State in which he spoke. Yeah. And he talked so much about telling stories and connecting with your audience. And something he said really stood out to me when I was in college. He said, when you're interviewing someone or you're going to talk to someone as a reporter, try not to go for the person that looks exactly like you. When you walk into a room, we're all innately drawn to the person who maybe looks like us. Yeah. And so he said, pause, take a minute, and find someone who doesn't look like you and talk to them. Yeah. Because you're going to get a different perspective typically. And so that's really stood out to me. I loved all of that. I went to college and was very blessed to do many things. I got to have stories on WTHR in Indianapolis, Fox in Indianapolis. I worked for the college news station and got to do a lot there, which was a blessing. And then I did my internship at CNN and got to do some work with Jeff Flock, who was the news reporter there out of the Chicago bureau where I was. And I found myself not telling human interest stories, but I was standing at it's called the Epitome 2. It was a nightclub in downtown Chicago that had, sadly, someone yelled fire. There was no fire. And 7 people, maybe 5 to 7, I can't remember at this point, were trampled to death.
Oh, jeez.
And so we were on site covering the story. And I had a moment where I thought, I don't know that this is what I thought it was, right? Like it kind of, my emotions, I'm that person that my emotions kind of ebb and flow with other people's emotions.
So you can't really separate yourself
I couldn't separate myself. Yeah. I was really drained. And so you know what I did? I called some of my professors and I signed up for graduate school. And I went to graduate school for journalism and media, writing mostly, public relations. So my degree is in public relations, my master's degree.
Yeah. So you realized at a point where you were ready to start your career, that the path you thought you were going to pursue wasn't maybe the right path. Yeah, and better to discover it then than 20 years into your career. You're not by any means the first person who's pivoted from journalism to PR, but you did it really before your career began. And I think it's admirable that you noticed that, because you're going to be dealing as a journalist with a lot of tough stuff. And on the PR side, while there's going to be tough days, a lot of times you're talking about the positive stories and trying to build people up more than dealing with them at their worst moments.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've had many friends say, you did it. You went from media relations and journalism into PR because the media world has shrunk so much throughout time, sadly.
Yeah.
So many friends have come to me and asked for guidance or help or thoughts on how to make that career change.
Yeah. There's been a lot of people who have been guests on the podcast who have made that change. So let's talk about then your first PR job. Am I correct that it's at Vera Bradley?
It was, yes.
All right. And you grew up in Fort Wayne, correct?
I grew up in Kendallville, just north of Fort Wayne. So, yes.
So were your aspirations at that time to come back home, or did you see yourself somewhere else in the world?
I was a freshly graduated college student who I don't know what to be honest, I wish I could tell you, yes, I knew I wanted this.
Probably just happy to have a job.
But I was kind of, let's put some feelers out there and see what works out. I know I interviewed for many jobs, was given several jobs, and the job at Vera Bradley just felt right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a well-known name here in Northeast Indiana. At the time, how much did you know about Vera Bradley?
A little bit.
Yeah, enough, but not the whole story.
Correct.
So when you started there, how big of a company was it? Was it still pretty small, or was it big at that point?
I was the 137th employee hired by Vera Bradley.
Wow.
We were pretty small.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed to get to do a lot because we were small.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a young individual, I was able to show my capabilities and what I was capable of doing and kind of grow quickly at Vera Bradley due to its size.
Yeah. Well, and you, I would imagine, as the, did you say 138th employee? 37th. I would imagine that you had at least incremental contact with Pat and Barb, correct?
Yes. I got to travel with them actually a lot. Just Pat and I traveled around a lot.
Yeah, a good opportunity to learn from entrepreneurs, women in business, and at a young age, I'm sure that made an impression.
It totally did. There's so much I remember that they taught me throughout all those years.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite things is, and both Barb and Pat and kind of the whole Vera Bradley group would say this. They would say, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. It's better to be interested than interesting. Mm-hmm. And that kind of resonated with me because that's kind of who I was. I wanted to tell people stories.
Well, it goes back to what you said about being curious.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly why we started this podcast. This is we're in our, what is this now, Nick? Is this our 5th year doing this, or it'll be 5 years pretty soon? This is me just being curious about people's stories for 5 years.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations on 5 years.
But it's a great thing because, you learn so much if you are interested in other people. And in 2025, there's so many people trying to shout over each other and tell their story that it's kind of nice to sit back and let others take the lead. So you kind of grow up then, in a sense, with Vera Bradley. How did your role and how did the company change during your time there?
I focused a lot on public relations. I had some great mentors, both inside the company and out.
Yeah.
And like I said, I did a lot of public relations, a lot of media relations. That was my focus for a long time. Was very blessed to be able to help write the IPO. So I was very young, very naive. Not that I'm not young and dumb still, but I was very young and dumb and learned a lot about thinking, wow, I'm writing an IPO right now.
Yeah.
I'm involved in this.
Yeah.
And I think the chief marketing officer and I at one point looked at each other after we had gone public, and we were like, wow, any dumb person I don't know if that was the word we used, but any dumb person can write an IPO. I mean, talking about ourselves, right? So, so it was really cool to be able to experience, as I call it, lightning in a bottle at Vera Bradley.
Yeah.
There were so many great things happening. I got to help do a lot of public relations for the Rose Parade, got to attend a lot of celebrity events. Like I said, got to help write the IPO, and I learned a lot along the way. Learned a whole lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you were there altogether about 11 years. Do I have that right?
About right, yeah.
So what inspired you to make a change? Because you go from there to Star Financial Bank. What inspired that change?
That change was my family. I was, like I said, I helped write the IPO. And as I evolved a little bit at Vera Bradley, I started doing a little bit more on the investor relations side too.
Yeah.
So I was kind of involved with the analysts. So between meeting with the media, working with the analysts, I was traveling a lot.
Yeah.
I was gone. And I mean, I have hilarious stories about, my husband dropping my daughter off at daycare in a tunic in which he thought was a dress, things like that.
And because your kids at this point are very young.
They are very small. So at the point where I actually was continuing at Vera Bradley until my kids started to get slightly older, until they were in school. So when they were young, I was missing things, yes, but not to the extreme. But once they hit kindergarten, I didn't want to miss their events because I was traveling.
Well, and they're more aware of your absence at that point.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about Star then, because was that about 8 years?
I was, yeah.
Okay, so tell us about your role there. And that's a big switch, right? You're in the world of retail and then all of a sudden banking. How did you make that switch?
Oh, that was a big switch. I learned a lot. I came in knowing nothing about compliance.
Yeah.
I remember the one piece of compliance at Vera Bradley we had was the drawstring bags that we created could not be advertised to, I think it was 14 and under at the time, because of the risk of choking. It's also why, you may not know this, but I learned this. When they make hoodies for children, the hoodies don't have the drawstrings.
I had no idea.
If they're for youth.
That. Yeah.
But if they're for adults, they do.
Interesting.
So there's never a drawstring in a youth size hoodie.
I had no idea. Yeah. All right.
You learned something today, Anthony.
So how did you find Star? Or did Star find you, or was it a combination?
It was kind of a combination. Yeah. I think, we had feelers out multiple ways. And I took this leap and I thought, what did I do the first 3 months? And all my friends at Star know this, and the great team at Star know that for the first 3 months I was slightly overwhelmed. Because jumping from retail handbags, which in the handbag world, the handbag is the billboard, right? Like we were marketing something visible and physical, tangible product, exactly. And then all of a sudden I'm marketing services and people and trust in people. Yeah. And so it took a lot to mentally switch that gear in order for me to make sure that everything we were doing from a communications and marketing standpoint was building that trust. And we were being compliant because there are so many.
Oh, sure. A lot of rules.
A lot of rules.
And that's where you really, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where you really made the shift from full-time PR with some, duties as assigned to more of a marketing focus, correct? During your time at Star?
Yes, I would say that. I would say while my role was public relations at Vera Bradley, I reported most of the time to the chief marketing officer. And so we were doing a lot of other duties as assigned throughout there. So I think learning all of that helped the transition go a little bit smoother. Also, my curiosity, when I don't know something, I'm continually researching it. Looking up, trying to find solutions. I'm an idea person. My husband says I have like 100 ideas and maybe one works. But that one's all I need.
Yeah, it's better than having no ideas, right?
Right. So yes, then I went to Star, had a great career there, was very involved in the community there, great team there. And then was just after 8 years ready for a little bit of change, something different.
Yeah. So that led you to where you are now, Sim Financial.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about Sim Financial. That is a name that, at least historically, maybe isn't as conspicuous as Vera Bradley or as Star Financial, but Sim's been around a long time. I remember when Sim was in, I think, Warsaw only, where it was founded, maybe about 40, 35 years ago? How long has Sim been in business?
More than 50 years.
Really?
We've been around for a long time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We are in several generations deep.
Okay.
And we did start in Winona Lake, and we have continued to grow. We have 6 locations across the United States, and we actually have clients all over the United States and all over the world.
Okay.
It's kind of one of those great little secrets that we've grown organically by word of mouth for all these years, because the quality of product we have is so good. So it's an easy sell from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah. Well, and related to banking, but still another change in industry. We had to learn some new rules, learn some new things. Again, a lot transferable from banking. Because you've been there now how long?
I've been there for almost 2 years, about a year, 8 months, 9 months, yeah.
And what's been the biggest challenge you've run into during that time?
Biggest challenge? That's a great question. Probably learning the jargon and the lingo. And once again, the product isn't tangible. Yeah. So ensuring that the messaging we're getting across, because a lot of this, a lot of what happens in the wealth world isn't, it's kind of a foreign language to most people. Yeah. So making sure we're also a translator and we're breaking it down so that people it's easy to understand.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's kind of scary for most people because especially, it's not that scary when times are great and the stock market is booming and people glance at their portfolio once a month and see the numbers going up. But during tumultuous times,
right,
it can, it's important to people because it's their nest egg. It's their, entire life savings in many cases. So very much a relationship business where there has to be high levels of trust. How do you as a marketer try to convey that? Because that's a hard thing to express. You've got really smart people who do really great work, but my guess is most of your financial advisors, they'd rather be behind the scenes than forefront. How do you balance that? How do you encourage them to share their personality, share their knowledge, while also conveying that idea of trust?
That's a great question. I would say that we really work on maximizing each individual's strengths. Because as you said, some of the advisors, that's not their personality.
Yeah, for sure.
While others it is. And so we really look at each individual advisor and try to tailor their goals to fit their personality and who they are, and allow them to kind of use a litmus test or pick and choose what works best for them. Yep. It's not like we're handing the advisors saying, oh, you need to do a podcast, or oh, you need to do a LinkedIn post, or you need to be on video. The last thing I would want is for me to go tell someone you need to be on video who doesn't feel comfortable.
Oh, for sure.
So we really work hard to allow options so that we can build trust in the way that works best for each of our advisors.
Yeah, that's great. So to give them a portfolio of sorts, pick what's going to work for you. And I would imagine social media is challenging because there is so much of a regulatory environment. There's things you can't say. You got to be really careful. Probably just can't unilaterally say, hey, we've got a campaign idea, we're going to run with it. Need to get some approvals there. Let's talk a little bit about the team you work with, because your role is complementary to other marketing roles. One of our past guests, who was a student in class that I taught, Savannah, was a great student. A lot of times I was teaching the class and I was saying, I think she knows most of this, but hopefully she took something away. Talk a little bit about her role and others on the team and how you fit into that.
Yeah, so we have a small team. I came from both Vera Bradley and Star, where I managed a very large team each time. Yeah. But I will say there's something I love about being hands-on and being able to get into the weeds and help people when they need to. Like it's not always perfect in a perfect world, but it's something I know I enjoy. So, but we have a small, mighty team there's 3 of us, and Savannah handles our social media and events. And we're computing this. We have about 80 events a year.
That's amazing.
Across all of our locations. Yeah. And so it's a big job.
And that's everything from virtual events to client entertainment and everything else.
It is. Most of them are in person. Yeah. A lot of people since COVID have said they'd prefer in person. We do virtual here and there, but But yes. And then she also handles all of our social media. Mm-hmm. And then I also have another employee, Ellie, who's amazing. She's a great team member. And she does most of our design work, sponsorships. And then I handle kind of the strategy, the budgeting, and then I fill in. We kind of all fill in and brainstorm together, which is, I found over the years, something I really love is being able to have teams where you can all brainstorm. And I always say that multiple people solving a problem is always better than one.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the transition from large marketing machine to small business. What has that transition been like for you? Do you prefer one over the other?
Well, what's interesting is that while some of the businesses I've been in have been very large, obviously Vera Bradley is publicly traded, it's extremely large.
Yeah.
Sim Financial Advisors is about the same size, actually a little larger in assets under management than Star. So it's actually not that big of a difference. There's just fewer people.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of similarities in what we do.
Yeah.
It just may not be as strongly known locally, but we're working to fix that.
Yeah,
so hopefully, the awareness will continue to grow.
Yeah. Well, I found, my experience having worked for, my first 3 or 4 jobs were all with really big organizations. My first job out of college was with the Massachusetts Port Authority, which runs Logan Airport and all these. I had a very, very small role. It was impossible for me to break anything, but really large organization, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of layers. Went from there. I did work for a small company for a time, but then I worked for Parkview, which is a big organization. Right. Worked for Barnes & Thornburg, big organization. And then I come to Asher, which at the time had 23 employees, now about 40. And what I found is that for me personally, I greatly prefer smaller business because of the ability to be accountable and hold people accountable. A lot of times in bigger businesses, I won't name names, but you'd say like, okay, who's responsible? And the answer was 18 people. Whereas here, I can usually find the person who's responsible for any point in the process and they can find me. I also like seeing things through from beginning to middle to end. And a lot of times at larger organizations, I'd be involved in one stage, but not all 3. What's your experience been like?
My experience has been similar to yours, I would say, in some degree. I think it's all individual on what you enjoy and what you thrive off of. I will say there are moments I thrive off the adrenaline of fast pace. And so wherever that might be, big or small company, I know that's where I find my calm. It's kind of interesting that I find my calm in the adrenaline of moving fast and finding the future. But I love that you, you're acknowledged and found like your place. Obviously, you've been here for a while now. So
well, I think it's important for young people to understand because a lot of people are told the better choice, and I put that in quotes, is the corner office at the large corporate entity. And that might be for some people, but I say this only half jokingly. I don't think I'd last 2 minutes in that environment. I don't like rules. I don't like a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of layers. I like sort of just trying stuff and seeing what works. I think you can do that anywhere, but it's sometimes easier to do in a smaller organization.
100%.
We're taking a quick break to talk about something that can truly impact your business, the power of public relations with Asher Agency. Imagine having a team of skilled communicators working tirelessly to shape your public image, build relationships with key stakeholders, and position your brand as a leader in your industry. That's exactly what Asher offers. Asher knows how to get your message heard by the right people at the right time. Visit AsherAgency.com for more info.
So I want to talk about a couple other facets of your professional life. One being the teaching you do at Indiana Tech. That's something you and I share. It's been a while since I've been in the classroom, but loved it, loved working with students, both the traditional students that people probably expect to hear about when you hear about a university like Indiana Tech, but also adult students. So talk a little bit about the teaching you've done over the years and the things you love about it, the challenges that come with it, all those things.
All of the above, right? The challenges that come with it and what I love about it. What I love about it really is I'm learning as much from these students as they're learning from me. There's a quote by Regina Brett, and it says, "Everyone is either your student or your teacher. Most people are both." And I've kind of held that throughout life, right? And so I love going into that classroom and seeing what I can learn from them. as well as what I can teach them and what I can share with them.
Yeah.
And I will say it helps with I have 2 teenagers,
Yeah.
a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And learning from these students helps me manage and work well with my teenagers as well. I'm able to kind of understand them a little bit because I understand. Maybe I don't know that I understand my teenage children, but I see where they're coming from, and I'm able to engage with that. I also love keeping up with what's happening in communications and marketing and sales and customer service. All these things are kind of they bring me joy to do It brings me joy to do lots of things.
Well, and it's great when you find sort of those complementary pieces. I mean, that's always what I loved about it is in the work at Asher, I was learning every day, and I could bring that to the classroom. But just as you said, I was learning from students. I mean, the way that their relationship with media is so different.
Correct.
Than even when I was younger, even when I was closer to their age, it was a generation or more different in their relationship with media. Kind of hearing them talk about that, seeing how they interacted with different content, I could bring that to work, and the two would inform each other in a way that was really, really beneficial. If I could add one thing to my professional life, being back in the classroom would be it. But right now, it's there's only so many hours in the day. So what classes have you taught or are you teaching at Indiana Tech?
So I teach a lot of marketing classes. I've taught in the past business ethics. I've taught I taught a lot of English classes in the past, but not as much now. I teach a lot more in the marketing realm.
Yeah.
I teach professional selling. So I teach a lot in that marketing sales capacity.
And are you teaching online primarily or in the classroom?
Mostly online, but I do like to teach in the classroom once every couple of years.
Yeah.
So I will be teaching in the classroom coming up here. And
great.
I have been teaching online mostly.
Yeah. And it's very different. Sometimes, it's going to be a matter of your schedule and your ability to do it. But I enjoy both, but love being in the classroom with, all kinds of students. But the traditional students are the ones who probably keep me on my toes a little more. So,
how have they kept you on your toes?
Because it really, here's the distinction I make, that traditional students, a lot of times they're not sure yet the value of college.
Okay.
And at an institution like Indiana Tech, you have great students who are very academically focused, and even many of the student athletes are academically focused. But occasionally there's someone who's there because it's the next step. They want to play a sport. They're in the class, and it's kind of like, yeah, this is all great, but I just need to, get through my degree. And they may see you as somewhat of an obstacle to that. So you have to overcome that. And it's relationship. It's being interesting in the classroom. It's meeting them where they are, not trying to pretend like you have all the knowledge and say, hey, let's work together on this. And that's where some of the best moments have happened. There's one student who I taught years ago who, to this day, I think he still says that he got a C in my class, but I was his favorite professor because we worked together on stuff, right? It wasn't the outcome that maybe he would have liked, but we just had fun and we made it interesting. But you have to do that sometimes with traditional students. With older students, what I've found is many of them are paying out of their own pocket, and they have, in many cases, again, not all, they have a higher sense of urgency. Because they have jobs, many of them have families, and it's like, I got to be efficient. I have to learn as much as I can because this is going to get me to the next step in my career. And there's not a lot of BS with them. They're there to learn. And if you are at all engaging and you have subject matter knowledge, they're going to eat it up, right? That's one of the distinctions I'll make. I think you're going to find exceptions to that in both cases, but it depends on what you're looking for, but I think that's the difference I'd identify.
I love that. I love those moments too, where, like you said, the student got a C, but you were one of their favorite professors. I've gotten those too, where you maybe struggled with a student, and then years down the road, I mean, I'm talking 7, 8 years down the road, you run into them somewhere and they tell you how great of an impact you made.
Yeah.
That's the moments that bring me joy.
What inspired you to teach originally? Do you remember?
What inspired me to teach originally? I started teaching, I think it was 05 or 06.
Yeah.
And I was very young. And I remember, I mean, I wasn't much older than with some traditional
do you have
students.
kids at this point?
No, I didn't have kids until.
So you had time was part of it.
Correct. I had time.
Yeah.
I always had that curiosity. My whole life, I've had multiple jobs. I don't know why, but there hasn't been a moment in time, I don't think, where I didn't have multiple jobs because I was always wanting to dabble in lots of different things.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a child, I think I was 16 or 17, I had multiple jobs. So yeah.
Did you pursue Indiana Tech or did they pursue you or was it a mix?
So I met Dr. Walls.
Yeah.
I was speaking on behalf of Vera Bradley at a Rotary event, and he handed me his business card and asked if I wanted to teach.
Oh, wow. Oh,
and
that's
so
great.
Dr. Walls, I know he just retired, so congrats to him. But so 20 years ago, he handed me his business card and asked if I wanted to teach. And I was very young.
Yeah.
And honestly, I probably made a lot of mistakes in the beginning because I was young and dumb and I didn't know what I was doing. But I've learned as I've grown.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you taught some writing classes. That was my foot in the door to Indiana Tech because I was there as an MBA student. And somehow someone found out that I had a previous master's in English. And they were like, oh, we really need writing teachers. Would you be interested in teaching? And my first thought was kind of like, why? I've never done that before. But there's a professor there, Susan McGrade, who kind of coached me. She was like, no, you can do this. Here's how I approach it. Here are some of the things to think about. And I gave it a shot. I was probably terrible in my first few classes, like any other skill. But over time, I kind of figured it out and gravitated away from teaching writing and lit classes to more things that were aligned with where I was professionally. But it was really a great experience, and it's part of what's become sort of a career-long relationship with Indiana Tech, where they gave me a shot. And I think it's really what Indiana Tech does best is they see potential in people that sometimes those people don't see in themselves and then bring that out. And that's what it did for me in the classroom, which turned into like public speaking and training. Now you can't get me to shut up. So I
love that story. I love that.
So there's another facet of your professional life that you've alluded to, but I want to dig into a little bit. And that is community service, serving on boards, because you've got some long-standing board relationships. Turnstone being one, Visit Fort Wayne being another. I know you're also on the ballet board. You're busy, right? You're teaching, you have a full-time job, you have kids. Why do you give time to organizations in the community?
I think that my husband and I have always, and he's on several boards as well, felt that it was our duty and obligation to give back. Mm-hmm. And whether that be a committee, a board, or just volunteering somewhere, I do think it's important to that my children see that we're volunteering and that we're involved, that my children see opportunities to give back. And I just love them. I mean, I've been on Visit Fort Wayne and Turnstone both for a really long time. Yeah. They're probably tired of me, so maybe it's time for me to give my hat to someone else, but I don't want to. So they might have to pull me kicking and screaming. But I'm also currently on the Purdue Fort Wayne Foundation Board. Okay. And then I'm also currently on Arts United, which I've been on for, I think, 3 or 4 years now, which I love. I was on the Fort Wayne Ballet Board for many years. Okay. I'm now on Arts United. But and I try very hard to balance my board. If there's boards that meet monthly, I try to make sure it's every other month or so that I'm not overcommitting myself. Sure. I don't want to be that person who isn't showing up. Yeah. I want to make sure I'm always able to attend and give my all. Well,
and for those who maybe are new in their career, you can easily get overextended because generally the people who get asked to be on boards are those who are already on boards because you've kind of proven that you're going to make the commitment. But I know people who are on like 5, 6 boards. Right. I don't know how they do it.
I don't either.
But it's definitely something that I think gives a different facet to your professional life. And you meet people you wouldn't otherwise meet, which is fun.
The connections to me are amazing. What I learn in these meetings that I wouldn't learn elsewhere, and I can apply various, I do kind of think my life is like a Tetris. Is Tetris old school? Should I not say that?
I understand it, so it must be old school. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I feel like my life is kind of like a Tetris board. I'm kind of always piecing together, and then I love it when there's a connection I can make. Yeah. Ooh, that person, I can connect to them. Yeah. Or I can introduce them to so-and-so. Yeah. Like, I thrive on that. And that moves me, but I know that doesn't move everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I think we all have to use our strengths.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and you mentioned something interesting about how much you learn on boards. When, for the short time that I was the Fort Wayne Trails board chair, one of the things I immediately recognized is that being a board chair is a lesson in learning how much you don't know about that organization. I was sitting in my first meeting and I was like, oh, I have so much to learn. And that's what those 2 years was really trying to learn as much as possible. But it's daunting, but it's a great opportunity to kind of say, the real experts are the staff. Mm-hmm. I need to support them, make sure they're doing what they need to do, but also they have the resources to do what they need to do.
Indeed. I was on the Philharmonic board for, I want to say 9 years. I can't quite remember. Yeah. But I started when maybe in 2006 or something. I was probably the youngest person on the board, and I didn't talk, I don't think, for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Because I was so intimidated trying to learn and understand, and I did finally talk a little bit.
Yeah.
But.
I had the same experience with an organization called Passages in Columbia City. I was terrified. I'm sitting at the table, I'm like, these people are all really smart, and I don't want to disabuse them the notion that I am. So the way I'm going to do that is not talk for about 2 years.
You and I are very similar,
yeah,
Anthony.
I think so. All right, so let's pivot to a few quick hit questions.
Sure.
Things we've kind of mentioned, but I want to hear concise answers. They don't have to be concise. Go with this.
I'll do my best.
Okay. So let's talk about your career and what you've learned about career success. What do you think is the most important thing, or one of the most important things, that people should think about if they want to have a successful, fulfilling career? How do you do that?
How do you do that? Well, I do think that's different for everyone, because I've learned as I've grown. I used to assume that everybody was like me. And I learned as I've gone through life that even my 15-year-old son, who's amazing, is 180 opposite of me, right? And so I think the advice I'm going to give here may not apply to everyone, but it'll apply to people who maybe see themselves like me. And I'm a people pleaser, right? And so I spent a lot of time trying to please people, and I'd get criticism here and there, and I'd be all upset about it, and it would eat me alive. And I don't know when it was, but at some point I heard someone say, don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was a moment for me, like, oh. And not to say that sometimes many times criticism is important, right? My family gives me criticism, and I think, I'm talking really loud right now, sorry. Like, I have a volume issue sometimes, right? Yep. And they say things, and I take it, right? But when someone maybe is, especially in today's society with social media, trolling online or doing something, we've all been there, done that, and read all the comments for some random post. Yeah. And all these people are being very critical. And I look at it and say, well, would most of these people take advice from them? I don't know, right? And so when you do receive criticism, I think my advice for a young person is the criticism valid? If it is, don't take it personally. Just try to improve yourself. Yeah. But sometimes the criticism probably isn't valid because it may not be someone who's able to see your life in the way it is. Yeah. So I would just say that, that take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And I'll add to that, if somebody is giving you constructive criticism face-to-face, try to be respectful of the fact that that's hard for people to do, right?
Indeed.
And earlier in my career, I can tell you if somebody criticized me face-to-face, I would not respond well to it. But today, I have to realize that's a gift, because it's so easy for people to say whatever is on their mind online, hide behind a screen. But if somebody has the courage to walk in and say, here's where you can be better, I ought to listen to them, right?
And if they're doing it from love.
Yeah, for sure.
Anytime they're doing something from love, I'm like, oh, this is from love. Or when I'm doing it for my children, I'm doing it out of love, that you see it as, oh, they're trying to better me in the long term.
Yeah. Well, and Tim Borney, did you know Tim and Tom?
I didn't know them well, but I did know them.
So Tim, who is the founder of Asher, I talk about him, when I talk about leadership, I say Tim was one of the best leaders I ever worked with, and his best trait was the ability to give constructive criticism, and I gave him a lot of ability to do that in a way that made the relationship as good or maybe even better. He could tell you something you didn't want to hear, but you needed to hear, and do it in a way that was respectful. And that is really rare. When you're on the receiving end of it, while it's hard to hear, know that it's hard to say, and try to be respectful of that. But at the same time, know your source.
That's a true gift, right? I would wish everyone would have that gift of being able to do that.
For sure. So I'm going to throw a curveball at you, a question related to the first, a perspective you can give that I cannot. as a working mom, how do you manage, you've got your responsibility to your husband, your responsibility to your kids, your responsibility to the unit of your family. You have an extended family that you have responsibility to. You have responsibility to work. You have all these community responsibilities. You're an instructor, so you have responsibility to that. How do you do it?
You find a partner or a spouse who understands your needs and is willing to be there 50% of the time or more, right? Sometimes he's there 75% of the time and I'm there 25%. Sometimes I'm there 60 and he's there 40.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've been very blessed that my husband and my family, my kids, all of us just know we all have to make it work and figure it out.
Yeah.
We're not, that's not something. We argue about things, as everyone does, but that's not something we argue about often, is whose responsibility is what.
Yeah.
I joke a lot, and this is, I don't do laundry in our household. My husband does all of our laundry. And if he's traveling, I do laundry or I throw something in on occasion. But I don't do laundry. And I remember years ago, we were getting a new washer and dryer, and my mother's saying to me, well, what kind of washer and dryer are you getting? And I said, I don't know. And
my washer and dryer is called Pete.
Well, how do you not know? And I said, well, Peter does the laundry. Now, I do a lot of the other things. Trust me, I do all the gift buying. I do a lot of cleaning in other capacities. We balance, right? And I said, I don't know, Mom. Peter does the laundry, so I'm just letting him decide, letting him pick what. But she was just appalled that I didn't know. But and I also, there's a control thing, right, that I think you have to have in a relationship where I don't do the laundry, so I'm not going to control what washer and dryer we buy. That would be silly.
You're going to let him do it his way.
Right. I let him do things he does well, and he lets me do things I do well, and normally it works.
Well, I think there's really good advice there in knowing what your responsibility is. I think I am in no position to give anyone relationship advice, but I think that a lot of arguments in relationships happen when it's unclear who's responsible for what. When there's an expectation, I think you're going to do this, but I haven't voiced that. And then you don't do the thing I haven't asked you to do, and then I'm mad, right? We have the same, Dana and I have learned a lot about what not to do in relationships. So we have a pretty clear division of responsibility. It's like, we have it to the point where she puts the clothes in the washer and moves them to the dryer, and then I fold. And we kind of know that. Now, it doesn't always happen. Right. But we don't have this expectation of, well, I thought you were going to do it. I thought you were going to do it. So good for Peter in accepting his place in that. If he has any folding tips, I'll take them because I fold the laundry.
I will ask him. Right. I will say, I realized too at one moment that he does a lot of he's very regimented. His disc is opposite of my disc.
So where are you? Are you an I?
Oh yeah, high I.
Yeah, it does not surprise me.
But
and he's an SC-ish?
Kind of, yes.
Okay.
But his he loves the regimented, he does the laundry. He likes the dishes. Yeah. I do the projects, right? I like to do the mulching and big things that I can get done, and I have a beginning and an end. Yeah. Where he likes the things that are just more mundane, and so we work well because that's how our personalities are. So I think that's lucky in the fact that that's how we work.
Yeah. Well, and it's I'm a DI. My wife is an SC.
Yep.
And sometimes that causes conflict, but a lot of times it's complementary. It's she doesn't want to plan all the social stuff. I'll take care of that, and she makes sure the bills get paid.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So second, we're turning what is supposed to be the quick hit part into.
Oh, sorry. I just kept talking.
That's me.
I'll blame you.
Fine. This is all my fault. All right. Second quick hit question. What is a myth or misconception about the work you do that you want to debunk? Now, that could be the world of financial advisory firms. That could be PR. That could be marketing. That could be being a working mom. Could be anything. But what's something you think people don't quite get right that you would like to change? Or maybe it's something that doesn't get enough attention.
Well, the one that came to my head quickly is a lot of people say you work in marketing. Oh, you work in sales. You sell. That's what you do, right? Mm-hmm. And that's true to a degree. But I kind of like to break it down and say, marketing is me saying, I'm great, right? Public relations is someone trusted, Anthony saying, I'm great, right? Like a trusted individual saying I'm great.
Yeah.
Advertising is buying a billboard that says you're paying for advertising that you're great.
Yeah.
And so I sometimes think that people think, oh, well, marketing is just selling. Well, no, marketing is about building relationships. Marketing is about maximizing those relationships, building that trust. And then we hand that baton to the sales team and they take it across the finish line.
Yeah.
So we're kind of the business developers. We help drive that traffic and then we give it to the salesperson. So we're a team.
Yeah.
In some cases, marketing and sales is the same person, but a lot of cases in today's society, the marketing team hands the baton to the sales team.
Well, I think that's really good advice again. And I think another piece of that is how marketing is defined is wildly different from organization to organization.
Agree.
There's some organizations where customer service is part of marketing, others where it's an entirely different thing. So you can't go in with really rigid definitions of what's what. You have to learn the business and then what's your role in that.
Rigid and marketing do not go hand in hand.
No, well, and you've got a sales force in your advisors. I mean, ultimately, they're the only ones who can sell a prospect because that's who they're going to be working with. And if you don't trust someone with your nest egg, you're probably going somewhere else.
Indeed.
All right, so one more. What is a tool you use that is a differentiator for you? It's kind of your secret weapon. Now, this could be digital, could be analog, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Something that helps you get the job done, maybe makes you seem more productive or organized or better, not to say that then you are, but that kind of helps you level up at work.
Level up. Well, here's something that just came to mind that probably would work for anybody and is available to anyone that I think fewer people know about. And it's the social selling index on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I've shared that with people and I know you know about it because I know you're LinkedIn, but I've shared that with so many groups throughout the years who had no idea. So you're able to really go in and see if you just search in the search engine LinkedIn social selling, you can click and see your score at any given time where you compare in the LinkedIn world to both your network and, kind of the network as a whole. So.
Yeah, that's a great one. And in 5 years, no one's mentioned that. But I think it's great. And people should remove the word selling out of it. It's really your LinkedIn report card.
It is.
It's like how you're doing on LinkedIn. It's somewhat objective. And of course, LinkedIn uses this to tell you, well, the way you can get better is you need to be, have a premium account. Ignore all that and just look at, and it breaks it down by like, are you engaging with your network? Are you sharing content? And it's really a great guide to what you should be doing on the platform. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. That's great.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think it's just a gauge for yourself. Like, oh, my score's a little lower right now. I probably should engage a little bit more. Let it get up there, and then you'll see that it's up there, right? It kind of allows you to measure against yourself what you're doing.
I would love to have one of those for every facet of my life, like the husband index, where I could go to Google and I could search husband index. It'd be like, you're about a 33 out of 100. The father index, all this stuff. We need more data to help us get better.
I love data. Yeah. I'm a marketing person who loves data, so I agree with you.
Yeah, well, it's become much more science than art. There's still some art to it, but the numbers definitely help. All right. Well, Melissa, thank you. This was great. Really appreciate you spending some time with us and sharing your story.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thanks again, and thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.
And now, we'd love to hear from you. Is there a question you wish we had covered? Please let us know. You can reach out to us at hello@asheragency.com. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps others discover us as well. For more resources and updates, visit our website at asheragency.com. Thanks for listening.